Today we are going to be talking about subtracting integers. When subtracting integers, we use the additive inverse. Some symbols that you might see are the letters P and Q, where they just represent numbers. And the additive inverse is when you see subtraction, it's the same thing, means the same thing as plus a negative number. So in an example, we have 4 minus 9. We take that subtraction sign and replace it with plus a negative 9, because 9 and negative 9 are inverses of each other. So 4 plus a negative 9 is 5, negative 5. We look at the second example.
Jose Vega and Jose Milano.
In the second example, we have 7 minus negative 10. The opposite, or the additive inverse, of a minus negative 10 is going to be a plus 10. So 7 plus 10 is 17. So let's look at some examples. If we have 6 minus 7, we know that 6 minus 7 is negative 1. Well, we can also write 6 minus 7 using its additive inverse of plus negative 7, because negative 7 and positive 7 are inverses of each other. So 6 plus a negative 7 is also negative 1. You're going to get the same answer. If we look at the number line, we have 6 positive numbers going in the positive direction. We have 7 negative numbers going in the negative direction. After we cancel out the overlap, we're left with negative 1 as our answer. Moving right along to some examples. All right, we have 8 minus 13. The additive inverse would be 8 plus negative 13. 8 plus negative 13 is going to be a negative 5. You can always check your answer by taking negative 5 plus 13, which gives you 8. Looking at the second example, we have negative 10 minus 7. Well, the additive inverse of a negative minus 7 is plus negative 7. So we're going to say negative 10 plus negative 7, because negative 10 and negative 7 are both going in the negative direction. If we were to draw a number line, we're starting at 0. We have negative 10, which would be here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we're also going negative 7. So we're going to have to extend our number line and go 7 more numbers in the negative direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which would be a negative 17. All right, you can check your answer. Negative 17 plus 7 equals negative 10. Next, let's see if we can solve some problems on our own. Let's look at this first problem. 6 minus 12. Anytime you see 6 minus 12, we know we can use the additive inverse and say 6 plus negative 12. So when you see subtraction, you can think of the additive inverse. 6 plus a negative 12, it's going to tell us we're going to reduce our number. We're going to get negative 6. Let's look at B. Negative 20 minus 15. Again, let's use the additive inverse, changing that subtraction sign to plus a negative 15. We have a negative 20 and a negative 15, which is going to give us a negative 35. And our last example, we have negative 22 minus 26. So we're going to use the additive inverse, negative 22. Change the subtraction to plus a negative 26. We have a negative 22 plus negative 26. It's going to give us a negative 48. All right. If you have any questions on that, make sure you ask when you get to class. Let's go to the next page. All right. What happens if you have subtraction and a negative number? So if we have 1 minus negative 2, we're going to use our additive inverse for that minus 2 and change to a 1 plus 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. So we're going to subtract a negative 2, add 2. Okay? Now let's see, negative 10 minus a negative 7. We don't like those double negatives, so anytime you see double negatives, think plus. All right, so negative 10 minus negative 7 is equal to negative 10 plus 7. Negative 10 plus 7 is a negative 3. Let's see what else we can get. Do we understand? Remember, anytime you see these double negatives, minus a negative number, think plus. 4 plus 12. We're changing this minus a negative to a plus sign. So 4 plus 12 is 16. Now, let's look at the next example. Negative 15 minus a negative 5. Remember, that's going to tell you to add. So we're going to say minus 15, use the additive inverse, plus 5. Negative 15 plus 5 is negative 10. And finally, F, 18 minus negative 6 changes to 18 plus 6. And what is 18 plus 6? 18 plus 6 is, finish it on your own, 24. Good job. The last part of this video is about evaluating expressions. If we're evaluating expressions, they're going to give you variables and they're going to tell you what those variables equal. So for this example, we have x minus y. X minus y is a variable. X is going to equal negative 6 and y is going to equal negative 5. So in the problem, we are going to replace x with negative 6 and we're going to replace y with a negative 5. So we bring down negative 6, use our additive inverse and change the minus and negative 5 to a plus 5. Now we have negative 6 plus 5, which is negative 1. Let's look at the second example. M minus n. They can use any letter as a variable. So this time they used m and n. They're telling you that m is equal to negative 15 and that n is equal to 8. So negative 15 is replaced where m was located and 8 is replaced where n was located. Using the additive inverse, we're going to change the subtraction to a plus negative 8. So negative 15 plus negative 8 is a negative 23. All right, here's our last chance. Let's see if we've got it. We have b minus 10. Looking at our directions, we are evaluating each expression if a equals 5, b equals negative 8, and if c equals negative 9. Because we have the variable b, I'm going to use the value of negative 8. So negative 8 minus 10. I'm going to use my additive inverse and say negative 8 plus negative 10 is going to give me a negative 18. All right, let's look at the second example. We have a minus b. So I'm going to use the values of 5 for a and negative 8 for B. I'm going to replace A with 5, bring down the minus sign, and replace B with negative 8. We're going to use our additive inverse and change the minus negative 8 to a plus 8. And we're going to get 5 plus 8 is 13. Alright, and our last example, example I, we have C, we're going to replace with negative 9, minus A, which we're going to replace with 5. So we have negative 9 minus 5. Use our additive inverse, negative 9 plus negative 5, and we get negative 14. Very good. We're almost done. Let's go to the next page. Alright, let's look at an example. This is a real-world example of how you could use additive inverses and subtracting integers. The temperature of the moon varies from negative 173 degrees Celsius to 127 degrees Celsius. Find the difference between the maximum and the minimum temperatures. Your highest number is going to be called your maximum, and the lowest number is going to be called your minimum. Remember that difference tells us we are going to subtract. Okay, we can estimate this by rounding negative 173 and 127. We would round 127 to 100, and we would round negative 173 to a negative 200. Using our additive inverse, we're going to add 100 plus 200 equals 300. And let's check just to make sure that that answer is correct by actually taking our 127 minus negative 173, use the additive inverse, and that minus a negative is going to become a positive. So we have 127 plus 173, which is indeed 300. So the difference between the temperatures is 300 degrees Celsius. All right, we have one more on our own. Brenda had a balance of negative $52 in her account. The bank is charging her a fee of $10 for having a negative balance. What is her new balance? So we know we're starting with negative $52. They're charging her, which means that they are going to take money away from her, which means subtraction because they are taking money away. So we're going to subtract $10. Using our additive inverse, we have negative $52 plus negative 10. We have negative 52 plus negative 10. It's going to give her a balance of negative $62. So she's going to have negative $62 in her bank account. All right. Good job watching this video and copying down the notes, following along. Now it's your turn to practice. Tomorrow in class, we will look for these guided practice problems completed. You need to complete 1 through 5 at the bottom of this page. 1 through 6 at the bottom of this page. Complete 1 through 6. We will be checking it tomorrow in class to make sure that you've watched the video and completed your homework. Have a good night.